More often than not, people will criticize you for your convictions, your direction, your inspirations, and your accomplishments. Now, for some, it's because they don't like you getting ahead of where they were or where they wanted to be. Or they either have a personal vendetta about you, or they just don't like you, period. Now, this often happens in many, many societies. It's a given. But it's become more prevalent in these last 5 years. Actually, let's even go back more years than that. Since we had social media, we've become our worst critics of each other, of ourselves, and of the direction that humanity is going in. But we're not going to talk about something as negative as that, because we are looking at the 1894, and I have to say it, the Renos of the century, in the 1894 duplex. This is over Broadway, and what my team has accomplished over the last 5 years since COVID had decided to be your new neighbor, it did allow for people to internalize their goals. It didn't stop them from pursuing them, it just had them step back and reevaluate them and how they were going to execute them. So, for up in Canada, I'm Dominic Raphael, and this is the 1894 Renos of the Century. We started back in 2021. We used to rent to individuals because there was a very high percentage of people that couldn't afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment, or even a bachelor or a studio for that matter. And it only cascaded into more discord in the following years due to C-19. But what it has given us as renters is the opportunity to renovate once again. Now, this was renovated 15 years ago, and it's now under renovations once again. Although some of it was forced renovations by unknown parties or unmentioned parties that we won't get into at this point, but it was nevertheless actually, it was a blessing in disguise, let's just say. And if you're into religious beliefs, then for me, it's just good orderly direction. That's what God is. Good orderly direction. If you look at the hat that I'm wearing, this was one of the films that we worked on many, many years ago. It said, "What if God were the sun?" The irony behind that title is quite profound. What if God were the sun? Now, sun is S-U-N or S-O-N, but either way, it's the sun. So, this is the renovations of the 1894 duplex, in the upper duplex of the kitchen. I showed you work that was done on the floor. That took a long time, but it is complete. And now, the entire kitchen is complete. We have new lighting. We have a new paint job. Most of it was just cleanup, really, and tidying up. We replaced the floor because the floor is a significant part of renovations because it modernizes your intent to do better than you did before. And it also keeps the economy going. For those who are heavy into the economy and the retail space, we've replaced handles that used to be brass, and we went with a overtone of black accent and an overtone of gray tile. And we went even as far as to create a montage of colors in this space. So here's a quick view of what it looks like today. Completed last night at the expense of my crew. Fridge and stove. Although the stove is old, it took a lot of cleaning because one of the, well, it is reality. When you rent out to people who don't have as much concern or don't have as much pride in where they live because, you know, they are paying rent, it still doesn't allow for the individuals to completely have disrespect for a roof over their head. Now, this stove took 3 hours to clean. From grease in the stove, on the elements, and in the lower bin. Now, why am I bringing up the thought of the stove? Well, the fact is that this is a very old looking stove. It's a style that is not very well accepted in today's technology. We have glass countertops, so we don't have to dig down deep into those elements and clean the grease that spills over every time you cook a hamburger. And this fridge, now it was bought at a wholesale, I guess what you might call dent and carry sale. No, it's a good stove, it's a good oven, a good fridge, and it also took a considerable amount of cleaning. But it is now very clean and very spacious too. I don't like the freezer configuration. I prefer the drawer pull-out. But when I talked about the montage of colors, we went with a bronzy, beigey, bronzy, smoky color vent, which does really well for the floor. Now, there still is a few touch-ups around the baseboards that all needs to be repainted, but for the most part, this room is complete. We had a new window installed just this year. This was the old style windows. As you can see, when it comes to dual glass or even triple pane glass, the old vinyl Aragon or argon filled glass, it does leak out eventually, and it looks very foggy and smoky all the time. So you don't always get a nice clear view, whereas in modern day windows you get a complete view, clear and clean, crisp and clean. So there we have it. This is the renovations of the century in the 1894 duplex, and this is the new kitchen. I think it speaks volumes. Now that it looks much more crisp and modern. So that was the kitchen. We're still working on the bathroom right now, but I should have some updates on the bathroom probably in the next week or so. So for Up in Canada, I'm Dominic Raphael, and this is what you do when C19 keeps you indoors, even though it's no longer a thing anymore. But the work is done. So for Up in Canada, I'm Dominic Raphael. Cheers.